Hi everyone, my name is Andy and welcome to All Lonely Meeples. On this channel, I share solo playthroughs of various board games, including tutorials on how to play. As always, if you like this video, hit that subscribe button down below. If you missed the first video of my top 50 favorite board game solo modes, there's a link to it in the description below. Let's continue the list of my favorites, numbers 40 through 31. Coming in at number 40 on my top 50 list is Cottage Garden, a 1 to 4 player tile placement game designed by Uwe Rosenberg and published in 2016 by Stronghold Games. In Cottage Garden, you are playing a gardener and you have different gardener tiles, and you are taking your different polyomino pieces and placing them around the garden to fill all the empty slots. And once you do that, you erase everything and you switch tile boards and you keep going. In the multiplayer game, you are constantly trading boards and flipping them over to the light side and dark side. What's cool about this game is you make a row of the tiles and you continue to take them and place them on a large board where you're moving your gardener around, and you can take tiles in those rows or columns. And depending on how many players you have, when you get to a row or column where there are less than that number of players of pieces remaining, you finish the round and you score. And in the solo game, it's a nice puzzly game, but you're not playing against any neutral player. You're just trying to score the highest score possible. Coming in at number 39 is CANOPY, a 1 to 4 player push your luck and set collection game designed by Tim Eisner and published in 2021 by Weird City Games. In CANOPY, it is a set collection game of plant cards and animal cards and some different types of cards that relate to the rainforest. And during the game, there are cards that will be placed face down on piles, and the push your luck aspect is each turn you're going to be choosing piles and taking all of those cards. Some of those cards are going to be negatives, like forest fires and other things that will hurt your hand as you continue to grow your tree and your forest. In the solo game, you'll be playing against a forest spirit that will be simulating a neutral player, and they're going to have their own set of rules to simulate a second player taking their turns. It's a great game, a good push your luck game, and I highly recommend it. Coming at number 38 is GANZ SCHON Clever, a 1 to 4 player roll and write game designed by Wolfgang Warsch and published in 2018 by Schmidt Spiele. GANZ SCHON Clever is the original to the second game, which is Doppelt so Clever. I believe there are 3 in the series right now. GANZ SCHON Clever is the original roll and write game in the series where you are rolling different colored dice and you are crossing off numbers on different parts of your paper, and depending on which color dice you take will allow you to mark off different areas. And I love GANZ SCHON Clever and Doppelt because when you take dice, any dice that are lower in value than the number you take, those all go away. So you are encouraged again to take lower numbers so that you get more dice per round. Coming in at number 37 is The Castles of Mad King Ludwig, a 1 to 4 player tile placement game designed by Ted Alspach and published in 2014 by Bezier Games. I love Castles of Mad King Ludwig. In this game, you are playing as the Mad King Ludwig, I believe the second, and where he would make grand castles and with tons of rooms and weird layouts, and that's what you're doing in this game. You have several different types of tiles, and you are paying money for these tiles and building your castle based on what rooms want to be next to other rooms. Most rooms have different types of ways that they score by being next to certain rooms. There are also some bonus cards that help you plan the way your layout is. In the single player version, you actually play as if you're playing a 2 to 3 player game, and it is a beat your score type of game. Coming in at number 36 is Creature Comforts, a 1 to 5 player worker placement game designed by Roberta Taylor and published in 2022 by Kids Table BG. In Creature Comforts, you are different woodland creatures collecting resources on a board by placing your your little creature Meeples, and rolling dice and assigning them to where you've placed your people. And by doing so, you collect resources and use those to purchase improvements or items that you're going to stock up for the winter, and that's how you score points. I love this game because it's very kid-centered, but yet it plays similar to an adult worker placement game. And the solo mode is actually the exact same way you play the game, with a couple changes in terms of what cards you take out. And it's a very cute way of seeing how well you did at the end of the game. And it has 4 different questions to answer at the end, and that tells you what type of critter you are and how well you prepared for the winter. It's again very kid friendly, and that's why it's number 36. Coming in at number 35 is CARPE DIEM, a 2 to 4 player tile placement game designed by Stefan Feld and published in 2018 by ARRAIAL. Now in CARPE DIEM, you are patricians in ancient Rome, and you are trying to build the most lucrative house establishment that you can, with different types of buildings and fountains and gardens and all of that. And I love this game because you are moving your token back and forth through a grid and collecting tiles. A very cool feature of this game is the way that you score. On the left side of the board, there are so many different cards that you place depending on player count, and once somebody has taken a spot to score, depending on the order in which you either end the round or started the game, you will claim that score. And if you're able to complete it, you score the points. If you don't, you lose points. And then only so many times in the game can a different type of scoring opportunity be scored by all the players. In the solo version, you do need an additional D4 at 4-sided die to roll the neutral player, and they're going to be taking tiles from you during tile placement, and they're going to be taking scoring opportunities from you throughout the game. I find it a nice challenge, but not impossible, and it's a tile placement game, which is why it's on number 35 on my list. Number 34 is My City, a 2 to 4 player tile placement game designed by Rainier Knizia and published in 2020 by Cosmos. In My City, it is a tile placement game where you have I believe it's blue, yellow, and red buildings, different types of buildings, and you have a simple board and grass and trees and rocks, and you're trying to cover up the most space, leaving the least amount of spaces uncovered. And if you've ever played a Rainier Knizia game, scoring is always very interesting and penalizes you for leaving spaces uncovered. And technically it's a 2 to 4 player game, but I've found that you can easily just play this solo with no changes at all, other than some of the features that you want to arrive at first before the other players. This is also a legacy game where there are different scenarios you can play through. I personally have never played through the scenarios. I prefer playing the solo or with my wife, the normal game, but you can easily play by just taking the cards, taking one card out, flipping them over, and placing those buildings and trying to get the highest score possible. Coming in at number 33 is ARRAIAL, a 1 to 4 player tile placement game designed by Nuno Bizarro Sentiero and Paulo Soledad and published in 2018 by Meebo Games. ARRAIAL is a really interesting game in that it reminds me of Tetris, as tiles will be coming out on a little rondelle, and depending on how they face when it's your turn, that's how you have to place it on your board. And you're trying to build up as much as possible and collect different types of people to this block party, which is the theme of the game. And you've got musicians and artists and others, and you're trying to collect the most and have the majority in multiple colors as you work your way up. Depending on how well you do as you build, you get bonuses for being under a certain part in your city on your board, and it continues until I believe no one else can play. It's a fantastic game. It's fun, very unique. Coming in at number 32 is Tiny Towns, a 1 to 6 player pattern building game designed by Peter McPherson and published in 2019 by AEG. In Tiny Towns, you are collecting blocks and placing them on your board in patterns. And when you achieve these patterns, you get to replace those blocks with the type of building that you were trying to build. The great part about this game is in the multiplayer version, let's say it's my turn, I choose a color block that I want, but everyone has to take that color block and place it on their board. And then the next player goes, and so on and so forth. And I love those types of games where I get some of the decisions while other players will tell me what I take. And the solo version tries to do that as best as possible. By flipping cards, it will tell you, the neutral player will tell you which blocks you're going to take every other turn. It's a fun game. It's not very long, but I find it can be very frustrating when you've tried to build these certain buildings and have enough space to build everything that you want. I find the real challenge is trying to complete the entire board in one sitting. And finally, to finish off this list of my number 40 through 31, coming in number 31 is Floriferous, a 1 to 4 player set collection game designed by Eduardo Baroff and Steve Finn and published in 2021 by Pencil First Games. I love Floriferous. It is a really simple card game. You are setting out rows of different types of flowers with some bugs on some of them, and you've got some monuments, and what you're doing is you're choosing whether you want the top card, the middle card, or the scoring cards at the bottom. And depending on which one you choose, that will determine the order for the next row as you go. And in the multiplayer game, you continue to move along, and once you're done, you have your cards, and you do 3 rounds of this going back and forth in player order. In the solo game, there is a solo player deck that you will shuffle and flip over, and it will tell the neutral player what to do, and essentially taking cards from you that you have to work around.